Idina.
Hello.
Idina Menzel, it's so lovely to see you today. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It is my honor to be here.
Now, we're going to talk a lot about all manner of things, including your essential musicals. But before we do, I want you to tell me all about your new album called I Stand.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to it. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
How would you go about describing it?
Well, I wrote almost all the songs on it, so it's a very personal, intimate album for me. And I collaborated with a producer by the name of Glenn Ballard, who was a dream producer for me. He produced Alanis Morissette's first album. And so I was trying to find someone that could kind of help me make the transition from theater into a pop sound without alienating my roots at the same time. And so what I tried to do is just sing big melodies and keep it, not too much production to overshadow the voice. But I've found in the past when I've tried to make pop albums that people tend to think because you come from the theater you're going to over-emote in the studio and that we're going to have too much vibrato and too much pronunciation or enunciation, and people have gotten in my head and sort of made me simplify everything. And this was the first time that this producer said, no, just do you, and we'll figure out how to make it all sound cohesive. So I just felt very free and free to be creative in the studio, and I'm hoping it's an album that people that are fans of mine from the theater, they won't feel gypped. They'll feel like they're just getting to see into a new aspect of who I am.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've co-written the 9 songs, haven't you? With your writer and producer.
Yes, Glenn Ballard.
Glenn Ballard, as you said. The making of this album, you've said, I think, that it's given you complete artistic freedom. So does that mean that you felt, I don't know, confined then when you're working on stage and on screen?
No. No, that was more of a comment from my past experiences trying to do pop music. No, it's 2 different things for me, and it's I feel really fortunate to have a career lately that I can vacillate from stage to recording to, film or whatever. And it's, as you know, it's grueling to do 8 shows a week. So at some point you do burn out, and it's nice to have a different place to go and challenge yourself artistically. And then, of course, now I'm jonesing to get back and get into a new show in New York or in London. So
this is good news. You're not going to be moving away from musical
not at all.
film,
no,
then.
I feel like hopefully people won't mind if I just could sort of try a bunch of things, and I feel like it keeps me fresh and keeps me challenged as an artist, and it makes me appreciate all the different genres, and especially now I miss being on the stage. I miss being with a cast, the camaraderie, because being in the studio is a very solitary type of thing, especially if you're writing your own music, you're pouring your heart out, you just want to kill yourself, And then, so being with the chess people this week was so refreshing, because it's just great to have other people's energy. I'm a very neurotic, overly sensitive actress, and it's nice to have other people get me out of my own head and my own heart and just joke around, and you know how it is.
Exactly. But listen, what shall we hear then from this wonderful new album? It's called I Stand. What's your favourite track, do you think, on it? Have you got one?
Yeah, I like the first one. I like the title track, I Stand. Yeah. I was writing it because I didn't feel like I really stood for anything one day. So I kept getting this melody and this lyric in my head with I Stand. I said, oh, God, it has to be this big standing on a soapbox type of song. Oh, no, what am I going to do? And then I said, well, let me just think of the little things in life that I feel are important to me. And that's what I wrote about.
Okay, let's hear it.
And I don't know what tomorrow brings. The road less traveled, will it set us free? 'Cause we're taking it slow, these tiny legacies. I don't try and change the world, but what will you make of me? I stand for the power to change. I live for the perfect day. I love till it hurts like crazy. I hope for
That
a
was
hero
I Stand from Idina Menzel's new album, I Stand. Idina, of course, many listeners on this programme will associate you with your award-winning performance in the musical Wicked. It's a huge hit now all over the world. But what were your initial thoughts when you first heard about Wicked?
It was the creative team involved that was very exciting for me. The director Joe Mantello and Stephen Schwartz, who wrote Pippin and Godspell. And I didn't know much about what Wicked was going to be, but in those embryonic stages, sometimes you have to go with the creative team and trust. And so I was just, I love The Wizard of Oz, and I love the idea of redefining who the Wicked Witch of the West might be.
Well, for those that haven't seen the show, can you describe Wicked?
Yeah, they call it a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. It sort of chronicles the growing up of the two witches, the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wicked Witch of the North, the blonde one and the green one. And they become friends, they're roommates in college, and then they sort of come to meet the wizard, who we find is manipulating and is sort of framing the Wicked Witch. And through all of that, she sort of comes into her own and learns how to harness her powers and use them in a way to kind of put the truth out there.
And who did you play?
I played Elphaba. Elphaba, that name, Elphaba, actually is derived from L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz. People don't always know that.
Ah,
it's
no,
kind of a play on words, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh. It's all right.
Was it down like this before?
No, just pull it back up. Just for those at home that don't know what just happened.
Idina just crashed into the microphone.
Yes, crashed the microphone. Anyway, we're all back together now. Now listen, as I mentioned earlier in the programme today, tonight is the Tony Awards. And you rightly won a Tony for Best Actress in a Musical. So how important was that for you?
Oh, it was important. I won't say that awards don't matter. I mean, this was a show that I had been a part of for about 4 years. They hired me very early on in the developmental stage, and so it was something that I believed in and had to stick with, and turned down other opportunities with the hopes that this was something that was going to be special, and just I had to take a leap of faith. And so the idea that something comes to fruition, you know how long musicals take when they're original and original pieces, and you never know if they're going to lose their funding or if you're going to get fired. Well, you wouldn't get fired, but in the first one you had, you probably didn't know what was going to
know, do you?
Right. And so it was just to actually see it go through all its stages and then be there and then be at the Tonys and win, and to see the look on my husband's face was pretty much the most memorable part of it, because he's a pretty cool guy, but he had some tears in his eyes and he was really proud. And it was nice. My parents were there. My grandmother, before she passed away, she was actually up there in the balcony. And it's just something I feel like if I never do anything important again, it's something that my kids, who I don't have yet, I don't have any kids yet, but when I have kids, they can pull out the Tony and say, Mom did this cool thing,
What did it change for you, having that Tony Award in your life and career?
I don't think it changes that much, really. It gives me a little bit more confidence, I guess. I think being part of that show and watching it grow internationally and the phenomenon that it's become is more rewarding than the actual trophy that sits on my wall, because it's something that so resonates with this young audience, especially young women, and I feel a real responsibility to these girls and how they sort of look at themselves and their own self-image. And so that's been something I feel very proud of.
Well, Wicked wasn't your first hit on Broadway, far from it. That honour went to the musical Rent.
Right.
How important was that show for you?
That was extremely important. Well, first of all, I met my husband in that show, Tay Day.